let's get started and with questions. We'll start with Dan Tortora. Dan, what's your question for Coach?
Good morning, or good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Good, Dan. How are you, sir?
Doing well. I mean, obviously with everything that's coming up, each conference trying to make their decisions, a lot coming out about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 right now. How are you handling this as a coach and within the conference at the moment?
You know, status quo right now, our conference is saying it's a go, and until they tell us it's not a go, we're going to get ready to play some football. And I don't think the attitude should be any different from, my pay grade down. We're going to be ready to go. If they say go, we go. If they say no, we don't.
Keeping the team focused, obviously, in practices and whatnot, just what you can say about trying to have that status quo and keep their mind on the task at hand, which right now is the 2020 season.
I'll tell you right now, the practices have been amazing. I mean, the kids that have been out at practice have been the effort based off of all the stuff that's gone on. I almost feel like it's been a release that they can actually lose themselves and do something that they really enjoy with a bunch of guys that are all COVID free and running around and having fun. The practices that we've been able to do have been some of the best practices we've had in a long time.
Thank you, Coach. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Adam Hillman. Adam?
Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Hey, Adam.
Given the recent news, I think it came out about an hour ago, that the Big Ten and Pac-12, are set to cancel or postpone their fall season. How confident are you that Syracuse will play a football game in fall 2020?
I'm as confident as I was when I started. Once again, these conferences are all individual things. There's always the domino effect, but there's also you could have a conference that just says, hey, we're going to play no matter what, and they play. So once again, until they tell us that we can't, we're going to act like we can, and our job is to get ready and give everybody the opportunity to watch college football. Is
it difficult to to not get distracted by this news? How do you keep it? Kind of a follow up from the last question. How do you keep everyone on task and focus?
It's a question I really don't ask. What they do on their off time, I'm sure they're reading all the stuff and listening to you guys as everyone else is. But when we're on the practice field or when we're in meetings, we're doing stuff that we traditionally do. As you guys do your job, they're student athletes. They've got classes, and then they have practices, which allows them to go to school for free.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to David Hale from ESPN. David?
Hey, Dino, I'm curious, with the meetings that you guys had last week with the team, as opposed to practices at the time, what was the primary messages that you were hearing? How good was it for you to kind of have that feedback and interaction with guys regarding all that's going on before you hit the practice field and get going?
Our kumbaya meetings. You know what? This is what I love about our football team. They understand that we're a family, we're an Ohana, we're La Familia, and they're allowed to ask any question that they want to ask. The only thing that we say is ask, as people would say, ask the right way, and make sure that you mean what you're asking. And they asked legitimate questions to some things that they had not gotten answers from. Some of the answers we had some of the answers we had because it's Syracuse University, and we were on the same page with them on a lot of the things that they said. On the flip side of that, they asked some questions about ACC procedures, some questions about NC2A procedures, which ACC we get a vote, but we don't get to tell the ACC what we want them to do. And when it comes to the NC2A, we don't get a vote. And we just allowed them to express themselves, and things that we could take care of, we addressed here at Syracuse University through the line of command, John Wildhack up to the chancellor, to the board. And the things that we couldn't, we recommended things to the ACC and to other people in those positions. And then, of course, the NC2A operates by themselves.
Were you this is kind of a thing that I've heard from a lot of folks, and I think that it sounds like this was sort of at the crux of what was being discussed, is that so many kind of voices have been coming in and from different places, and it hasn't been a very unified front for college football through a lot of this. Would you love to see something that was more universal instead of this sort of dribs and drabs that are coming in?
Hey, no one cares about where my undergraduate degree and my master's degree is from, and I don't think I get any points for School of Hard Knocks and Common Sense. So there's people that are making those decisions, and my job is to make sure that I take care of the young men here at Syracuse University.
Next, we'll go to Stephen Bailey from Syracuse.com. Go ahead, Stephen.
I just wanted to follow up on what David asked. We saw John Wildhack put out a statement saying you're going to test twice weekly during the season, and that you're encouraging, or John's encouraging other ACC schools to do the same. What other specific concerns did the players have, and was there anything else that, within you and what Syracuse is doing that you were able to grant them?
First of all, we were already testing twice a week here at Syracuse University, and our testing has been unbelievable. I mean, we're a private school. We can't tell you the numbers, but I'm telling you right now, I'll go all in with our numbers versus all the other teams in the country. We're in the top 4. And I think the biggest thing is that the young men had seen our testing policy or procedure, procedure work. They know that it's effective. And then when they ask the question, is other teams doing exactly what we're doing, and we can't answer yes, it concerns them. They had numerous questions on certain things, but I think that was the biggest thing. They knew what we were doing was working. They were asking what other people were doing. When we said we can't, were they doing exactly like us, and we couldn't answer yes, that there were some concerns, and I think that was all legitimately so.
And then to follow up, the player empowerment movement is kind of aligned with this, and they're not mutually exclusive. You look at what the Pac-12 players are asking for. It's not just protection from playing during the pandemic. It's a cut of the revenue. Any discussions, as within those team meetings, how much of it was strictly COVID related, and was anything, like name, image, and likeness and player compensation, was that a prominent part of those conversations as well?
This is what I'm going to say to this. I thought it covered a lot of ground on a lot of things. I thought some of those things internally we could handle. I thought some things we had to go to the ACC level, and then some things were totally out of our hands. The list is, I'm not going to say the list is private, but the list is something that the players brought to us, and I'm not at liberty right now to give you guys the items that were on the list.
When you say, just to follow up, when you say a list, so did they physically come to you with a list of things to talk about in lieu of practicing?
I wouldn't say a physical list, but they had topics. It had nothing to do with practicing. It was concerns about things. And then I said, well, if we're this concerned about these things, then practice is maybe not something we should do. We need to make sure that you guys have peace in your minds long before we go out on the practice field.
Next, we'll go to Jacob Payne. Jacob, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Coach. If college football is unable to have its season, whether it's a total cancellation or a postponement, and we see other professional sports leagues continue, what, in your opinion, would have been the biggest contributing factor in the NCAA's inability to operate?
Again, you guys, I can't talk about the NC2A. I see one guy on TV from the NC2A. I've never met him. And all the other people in the NC2A, if they walked right past me, I wouldn't know who they are. I would know your guys' faces before I know some faces in the NC2A. So, I mean, it's way, way out of my league.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Corey Spector, WAR. Go ahead, Corey.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Corey?
Doing all right. I'm curious, Coach, if any of your players, including Tommy, have had discussions with Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or anyone with the We Want to Play movement about encouraging the conferences to keep moving the ball forward and keep the season on.
Corey, I don't know. I can't answer that question. Yes, I wouldn't know that. I would not have knowledge of that. I do know that the players have been talking to other players. I just don't know who those players are. So I don't have a yes or a no answer for you on that question.
Coach, there were also rumors that some officials were telling coaches to sort of lay off of practice a little bit. Was that the case with Syracuse or no?
When you say officials, what do you mean? Some officials were saying lay off of
Some
practice?
Some within the NCAA considered telling coaches and presidents to maybe calm down practice today or in the next couple of days if the season were to get canceled later in the week.
I don't know. This is an off day for us, so I don't know if you can have practice any more calmer than that. So we're not even on the practice field. I haven't heard anything like that, Corey. I can honestly tell you that.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Darius Joshua, News Channel 9. Go ahead, Darius.
There we go. Unmuted now. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, Darius.
similar to kind of what you said earlier, does it almost kind of feel like, just to bear with me on the analogy, you're kind of like you're a kid and the parents are saying we're moving and you're leaving the school district and you kind of have no say in it at all? Does that kind of feel like that, or is that a mischaracterization of kind of everything going on right now?
Wow, this is spooky. Me and my daughter was talking about this about an hour and a half ago out on my patio. And I was telling her a story about my dad retiring and how we kind of had this vote that we wanted to retire in this certain place. And he took the whole family vote. And after the family voted, he says, I've taken this into great consideration. I appreciate all you guys. And now we're going to retire over here, which is no place that we voted on. No, I think I think they have a lot to say. I mean, we're going to listen to our players. I think they're important. They have an important voice, and their voice needs to be heard.
And then, kind of following up on that, you mentioned you multiple times said how proud you are, kind of your testing policies at Syracuse. How much in those conversations with other head coaches in the ACC are you like, oh, maybe take a look at what we're doing to kind of emulate that? Because if the other teams themselves can't test correctly or they can't have appropriate healthy players, then that obviously affects your schedule as well. How much in those conversations does that stuff?
The ACC coaches have had a lot of conversations starting, I don't know the exact date. I want to say we started back in April, and we met weekly all the way through almost until this thing got started in June 8th. And we still had we had bi-weekly meetings after that. But I think the biggest thing is this is the closest to me, and I hope this answers your question. This is the closest to me that athletics has ever merged with politics. We're talking about, sometimes you're saying, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. And you say, well, you better talk to the county health professional. You better talk to the mayor. You better talk to the governor. There's a lot of things that we had to do as coaches and as universities that we've never had to do, or I didn't have knowledge that we were doing before. And there's a lot of other people involved in decision-making, which really slows down the flow of information, which I think has been one of the major issues with the players, where they ask questions and you literally can't answer the question because it doesn't stop 1 or 2 levels above your head. It goes a lot further up than that, and you have to wait for that information to trickle down if you're going to give them a black and white answer on something. Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. And then one quick follow-up, if I may. Are you on the same schedule? I know before you said it would be 2 days of helmets, 2 days of shoulder. Are you on that same schedule kind of as you look at practice for this week?
The NCAA locks us into that schedule. No matter when we start, we have to stay locked into that schedule because of the NCAA rules.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we'll go to Anthony from the Daily Orange. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Dino. Hope you're doing well. If Syracuse is doing so well with the testing, why not brag about it? Why not come up with the information that says, hey, look at how few positive tests we're having, and why not release that information?
Well, this is my first opportunity being at a private school, and being at a private school is one of the things is they don't have to give out their information. So I'm falling in line with the rules of Syracuse University being a private institution and not spitting those numbers out. But, I've said it and I truly believe it. If you're going to do a Final Four of a positive test, I really think we'd be in the Final Four playing for a championship. I mean, it's that good.
Do you think releasing those numbers would inspire more confidence from other schools that it is a safe operation?
I would say that releasing those numbers to the schools probably be very good. Having me release the numbers right now in a situation may not be so good for me, but above my pay grade, if they wanted to release it, I think it would really reinforce what we're talking about is we really think we've got a procedure that works up here.
Thanks, Dino.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Nate Mink, Syracuse.com. Nate?
Dino, I guess when we spoke with you last week, everyone in the virtual room, had the intention that you guys were going to practice at 4:15 that afternoon. I guess, when did you receive that list and who delivered that to you?
Again, that thing was more based off our student council. Our council came to us, and we have a council of young men on the football team that represent the football team. They came to me with some issues in the middle of the day, and then we started talking about those issues. And it basically took 2 days to put them at ease at some of the things that were going on. Again, not with our procedures here, but what was going on with other procedures around the conference. And the hardest thing for the young men to understand is that every head coach, every athletic director, every chancellor, every board of directors is responsible for their own pod. And our pod is Syracuse University. And when it gets to the ACC, you get a vote. And then out of those votes, the Democratic thing happens, and whoever gets the most votes decides on the next level of things. What happens at the NCAA level, I cannot tell you. Okay, I do not know. But just to let them know that boom, 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 and that's the order of things. And so we gave them the information. They were satisfied with the information they had, and then we started practicing.
I know you asked not to get into the particulars of the list. I'll ask this anyway, respectfully. Was moving Liberty off the schedule part of their requests?
The answer to your question is I would love to answer you, but I'm not going to answer it because I'm not going to tell you all the things that were on the list. But once again, everything that we do, we talk about a lot of things and within our family, and we make those decisions, and we make the best decision for the family.
Next, we'll go to Nico Tamurian, CNY Central. Go ahead, Nico.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you through the screen again.
Okay, there you go, Nico.
There we go. A similar question to what we've asked earlier, but with the approach of going full steam ahead, what do you say to the guys? Because obviously they're on social media. They're seeing the reports of other leagues and things like that. So what do you say to them to kind of keep them in that, okay, it's business as usual as far as we know mode, and try to get them to block out some of the news breaking maybe with other conferences?
Well, I think, again, it's just what we do. I mean, first of all, we've got an off day. You guys are telling me about stuff that I have not heard about, the Big Ten this, the Big Ten that. We have if you're going to pick an off day, it seems like this was the perfect off day to pick. Okay, we will not be on the football field again until tomorrow afternoon at 4:15. And based off of things going on, if those rumors are true, we're going to know a lot about what to do and what not to do by 4:15 on Tuesday. So I consider it a blessing. They're going to come over here. They're going to get fed. They're going to get taken care of. They're going to talk a little football. They're going to go back to their rooms and relax. It's their off day. Hopefully they'll watch the news a little bit, do a little homework, because a bunch of those guys still have classes. And then by Tuesday at 4:15, we should have a better view of what's going on.
Appreciate that, Coach. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to John Johnson, Spectrum News. Go ahead, John.
Coach, good to see you again. I kind of want to follow up on something Darius had asked, but you mentioned all the time you guys are in constant communication, you and your team. You guys talk all the time, but it seems like other players from different teams and schools and conferences, they don't seem to have that level of communication. Do you think that that's been the biggest issue, is that there are a lot of players that have been left kind of in the dark as to what's going on, and there needs to be a bigger line or better line of communication?
I'm not going to go down that road, John. What I will say is this, is that what we've tried to do here is if you can ask a question, we're going to try to give you an answer. Okay. If we don't have, this is starting from 5 years ago. If we don't have the answer, okay, we're going to tell you that we don't know the answer to that question, and we're going to try to find out the answer to that question, and we will get back to you. I think one of the biggest reasons for the Kumbaya meeting was they have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. And it's because they're asking questions that are way up the ladder that we're still waiting for the answers for. And then when it gets down to their level and they're talking to their moms and their dads and everyone else, that it's frustrating, like they feel like they're being kept out of the loop when really the loop is not completed yet. And I think that's probably the most difficult thing for the young people.
Thanks,
that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that did. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. Stay safe.
Next, we'll go to Danny Emmerman from the Daily Orange. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, Dino. Hope you're doing well. This morning, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan wrote a letter basically pointing to his programs and testing numbers and how successful his workouts were.
Daniel, can I cut you off? I apologize for being rude. What was his numbers?
They were good. That's why he was pointing to them. He was pointing to them, as a reason why they should play football.
How good were they?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I can pull them up if you'd like.
I would love them.
I'll find him right now. But he pointed to them as a reason why you should play football. The numbers were Michigan football program has had 11 positive tests out of 893 administered. And they've had 2 positive tests of the last 417 and none in the last 353. So do you think there is something to the idea that it's safer for the players to play this year as opposed to not playing?
I really want to comment on those numbers, okay? But I can't tell you what our numbers are, but watch my face, Daniel. Okay? We're still in the Final Four. We know we're in, okay? Hopefully Michigan's in too, but we know we're in. When you look at some of our players, like, okay, you guys help me with these numbers. I think the state of New York is like at, what are we, like 1% right now, or 0.78 people
like
that we test come up positive, 0.78.
Like around 1% positive.
I think we're less than 1 as a state, but I'll go with you. Right now, it's safer to be an athlete at Syracuse University, okay, than to be walking around the state of New York.
And do you think that would change at all if there was a football season, you're traveling to other states and playing football games, that kind of thing?
I can't guarantee that, but once again, the thing that I would want to reiterate on people is that if you've got something, the state of New York is doing it right. Syracuse University is doing it right. That doesn't mean other states and other programs aren't doing it, but you can be good or you can be the best. And I would love to see the states or the institutions like Michigan, and I would like to think that we're one of those, get together. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. These are our numbers. These are our numbers. And let's help some of the other places along so that maybe we could have an opportunity to have everyone to have really good numbers. How about that for an answer, Daniel?
Sure. So you do think it would probably be safer for your players at least?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to answer it. I already answered it a different way. You can write the last part the way you want to write it. Okay?
Sure. Thanks, Dino.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to David Hale, ESPN. Go ahead, David.
Hey, I know we're not quite at this point yet for Syracuse, though several other leagues have already announced it, and certainly down at FBS or FCS and Division II and III levels. As somebody who's done this for a long time, what would be the challenges of trying to make this work in a spring season potentially? And do you get the sense a lot of players would stick around for that, be against it? Would it be even safer or less safe than potentially just trying to play now?
I really don't know the answer to it, Dale. The only thing that I could answer out of what you said, in my opinion, if you go to spring, you're going to probably lose, some very facial guys to college football that we all know who they are without saying who they are. And then most likely they probably would not play. But college football, I think, whether it's played in the fall or played in the spring, is one of the purest games there is. I think that's why people love it so much. And I really think if we can do it safely, and I think we can, but it's not my vote again, I think we really need to play. I think people would love to see us play if we can find a way to make sure that we can do it safely.
Next, we'll go to Stephen Bailey, Syracuse.com. Go ahead, Stephen.
I kind of wanted to follow up on how you left the meetings with the team. Obviously, you guys are practicing, and the way you kind of said it, you're going to try and get back to them on ACC level things, and whenever NCAA word comes down the line, hand it to them. Is there anything else that was important about how you guys left that scenario? Anything that they are still waiting to hear on, or an expectation that you've given them that's different from the status quo?
I don't know about the last part. I got kind of confused about the last part, but there was information exchanged the first time. There's been information coming back that we couldn't answer right away. And we've gotten that information back to them. And then there's some things that we're still waiting for because now it's outside of our house and you're dealing with, other schools in the conference and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's your answer. But I didn't understand the very last part of your question. I didn't know how to answer.
Sure. Yeah, you pretty much did. It was just basically if anything had changed in how you guys were operating, other than, again, basically publicly stating that you're going to test twice a week, which is in line with what you've done. To follow up, one of those dates that we're all kind of looking at is –
Stephen, I might have said something wrong. We right now we don't test twice a week. Right now we test every 2 weeks. But we were already planning that once the season started to test twice a week. So I want to make sure you guys got it.
Correct. Appreciated. One of the dates that we're all looking at, and a lot can change before Friday, is when the eligibility word comes down on players who opt out. You had said the last time we talked that there were some guys who are pending. Do you still feel the same way about that? And how important is that Friday ruling going to be for those guys?
Well, I think, yeah, there's still some guys pending. There's no doubt about it. And we're waiting. That's supposed to be the direction from the Ncaa that's going to be able to allow people to have I can't even stand. I don't even want to say the word. I'm not going to say that word. Where you're going to have as much knowledge as you can so you can make the best decision that you can make based off the information that you have. So, yeah, so for some of those young men, it's like, hey, I can make my decision now. For other ones, they're like, okay, I'm going to wait to hear how to have the most information I can have, the most data, so I can make the best call that I can make. And that only makes sense to me.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to Jacob Payne. Jacob, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. This is Jacob Payne with CuesNation.com. Stephen sort of hit on the question I wanted to ask you. But while I have you, do you anticipate any sort of conflict between players who want to opt out and players who want to play? And if there would be a conflict like that, how would you manage that as a coach?
First of all, I don't think that you should have conflict. Everyone has a right to opt out. Okay, they have a right to opt out, so they can opt out. But, football teams are really, really close. They're family, they're family. And sometimes people have to make decisions what's best for their family, okay? And everyone else needs to be able to respect that decision. So I'm sure that people want certain people to stay because of health issues with moms or dads or brothers and sisters, and they need to be respectful of everybody making the decision that's best for them. And then we need to bring the family back together and do the things that we need to do to not only have success, but to support one another.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Just about out of time, so the last question will be from Adam Hillman. Adam, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. So kind of following up from Danny's question a little earlier ago, Trevor Lawrence last night released a statement on Twitter, basically, talking about different reasons why he wants to play. In one sentence, he said, we are more likely to get the virus in everyday life than playing football. Having a season also incentivizes players being safe, taking all the right precautions to try and avoid contracting COVID. What are your thoughts on that? And did you take a look at Trevor Lawrence's statement?
I did look at Trevor's statement because Trevor is one of the faces of college football. I did read it. I don't really feel it's appropriate for me to speak about one of Coach Sweeney's players, because I really wouldn't want Coach Sweeney talking about one of my players. So I read the comment because he is one of the faces of college football, but I'm not ready to share an opinion on it.
All right.